This is Bloomberg Businessweek with Carol Massar and Tim Stenovec on Bloomberg Radio.
All right, well, loyal listeners and viewers are well acquainted with our next guest. Yannick Benjamin is a sommelier and restaurateur behind one of New York City's most cutting-edge and inclusive restaurants, Contento, in East Harlem. He's also making hospitality accessible to everyone as a co-founder of Wine on Wheels, which works with and helps recently disabled people that lack a support system and resources to obtain the services that they need. It is something he knows so much about, and so great to have back with us Yannick Benjamin joining us on Zoom in New York City. I'm rushing through. There's so much to talk about and set you up, but our audience knows you. How are you?
I'm doing great, and thank you for having me back on. I'm really honored.
Well, we're always honored to get some time with you for all of the work that you are doing. So tell us about your world and how things are going right now.
Everything's great. I just got back from an incredible trip from Greece, visited some wonderful wineries, learned so much about it. So many great things are happening out there. So that was really great. And now I'm back here in New York City, and we're preparing for our first Wine on Wheels scene in 4 years. Obviously, we had this major interruption, so we're so excited to have it back on. And that'll be on Sunday, September 10th at City Winery.
So talk to us about the money that you are raising for charity and what goes into that.
Yes. So the purpose of Wine on Wheels is really to educate the public, but most of all to really bring awareness as well. So there's a wellness and physical fitness center that's going to be open very soon. And that's spearheaded by my dear friend and colleague, George Gallego, who also happens to be a partner of mine at the restaurant Contento Restaurant, a Peruvian restaurant on 111th between Park and Madison. And so this wellness and physical fitness center, which is going to be located on 118th and 3rd, all of the equipment will be adaptive. This is going to be a great place for people with disabilities to go to, where they're going to be there with their peers, learn from each other, and be able to interact and really motivate each other. There aren't too many places here in New York City or anywhere else in the United States where people with physical disabilities can go to and have equipment that's actually adaptive for them, and also have adaptive classes like adaptive boxing, adaptive martial arts. I mean, it's going to be really great. Certainly, there have been a lot of challenges to get this open. And so this is why it's really important to have Wine on Wheels to raise this money and really let the public know that this is an important project and it needs to happen.
Yeah, like I said, you're someone who knows a lot about this world because you yourself were paralyzed below the waist at the age of 25. It was a car accident. So it's, I think, 2 decades ago. Tell us remind everybody about what happened to you and what you realized around the world when it comes to, because obviously you know this from firsthand, what is lacking in our system and our infrastructure and our sensitivity kind of as a society.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure. It's funny that you would ask me that because, in October, it will be my 20th year being on a wheelchair. It's really unbelievable to even think that. And it's gone by so fast and so much has happened. But, I was in Athens, and such an incredible and vibrant city. And it just reminded me that we still have so much more work to do. Just rolling around the streets of Athens and trying to get up to the Acropolis had many, many challenges. And it's not just people on wheelchairs, but it's people that are blind and that are deaf and so on. And, we're talking about over 1 billion people globally that have a disability, right? And so we need to do a better job and getting rid of those invisible barriers and really just doing a better job reaching over and being more inclusive. I mean, here in the United States alone, we have well over 61 million Americans that have a disability. And so as I tell all my friends and colleagues in the restaurant business, right, especially now where, there's so many challenges, it's not easy being an operator for a food establishment. We're talking about, 61 million Americans that have over $500 billion of spending power, right? And we're just kind of completely still ignoring that population. I just don't understand why. People with disabilities have so much to offer. They're willing, they're able, and they want to work, and they want, in life, everybody wants a sense of purpose. And I remember when I first got injured, there were a lot of obstacles, there were a lot of challenges, and all I ever did prior to my accident, I was always in hospitality. And all of a sudden, here I am, car accident, paralyzed from the waist down, and it was certainly not easy to get back into the game. And I'm hoping that we can see more people with disabilities in the hospitality industry and just people with disabilities in the workforce, period.
How will the proceeds be split? I know in the past you've used Wheeling It Forward. It's dedicated to improving the lives of those who are living with disabilities. And then also Backbones, which has assisted people with those spinal cord injuries.
Yeah, so Backbones is a charity that's out of Chicago. So we did an event with them, and they do a lot of great work. We are going to continue to support Wheeling Forward. I'm still very much involved with them. They have a great program called Spinal Mobility, which also incorporates exercise and fitness and wellness for people with disabilities. So that's how the proceeds will be split with that organization. But also, again, our main priority is to get money and get those doors open for the Access Project, spearheaded by George Gallego, because this is going to be an incredible project, and again, something that's sorely lacking. There's not a lot of places for people with disabilities to go to where they can go to and feel safe and comfortable and work out and be amongst their peers. And I think that the Access Project is going to be sort of, you'll see, I think if it works out, it'll be the template for many other cities and states to follow.
Well, that's what I wanted to go back to is your own experience and, realizing the lack of support or the lack of infrastructure or resources. You would think in this day and age that either through healthcare or so on and so forth, that these systems would be there. What are some of those? What would be probably just basic, necessary, fundamental services that are still lacking for individuals with disabilities?
For sure, I think, for some reason, we still don't prioritize healthcare. And unfortunately, we have a lot of individuals that heavily rely on Medicaid. Mm-hmm. And the rules and regulations for Medicaid are very oppressive and they're very rigid. So unfortunately, a lot of people that rely on Medicaid, because if they return to work, they're always in danger of losing it. So there's not a lot of incentive for people to want to get back into the workforce. And so I completely understand that. So there needs to be a fundamental change when it comes to that. I think that people who have a long-term disability should be entitled to the best healthcare and should not have to worry about if they get a job and losing that really important health insurance. There's a lot of people that rely on durable medical equipment and so on and so forth. And so I think that if we can change that and soften up those rules and regulations, I think you're going to see plenty of people out and about living independent lives. I think that also the cost of living has just been it's been really challenging for a lot of people with disabilities here in New York. It's made it very, very difficult. And that's something that we don't talk enough about. So we certainly need more affordable housing, but affordable housing that's also accessible for people with disabilities.
Yannick, we so often here at Bloomberg talk about inclusiveness or inclusivity and feelings of belonging. And it's interesting that, I'm looking at accessproject.org, and it's really created this community, right, where folks who have disabilities, they can go box, they can go cycle, they can go do yoga. And these are things like the health community says, no matter what, you stay physically active in some regards, you're going to have a better life. And this is enabling those individuals to actually partake in this.
Absolutely. I myself, I work out every single day. It's ingrained. It's part of my life. It's the same way someone has lunch every single day. They need to eat. Well, I need to work out. And I know that when I don't work out, I don't feel good. My day feels lousy. It feels different. It's something that makes me feel fulfilled.
Yeah.
And it's that same passion that I want to pass on to others. It's the same passion that George Gallego, my colleague, wants to pass on to others. And I think that, unfortunately, it's somewhat ingrained as there's a stigmatization because you have a disability, whether you're on a wheelchair or whatever the case might be, mm-hmm. that working out might be difficult, or you may never work out. And I just think that we need to get rid of that. There are plenty of ways to work out, whether you're on a wheelchair, whether you're blind, whether you're deaf. It doesn't make a difference. Everyone deserves the right to work out and deserves to have a facility that they can go to and feel safe and comfortable.
I want to get back to our guest still with us, Yannick Benjamin, a sommelier and restaurateur, co-founder of the East Harlem restaurant Contento, co-founder of Wine on Wheels, still with us on Zoom in New York City. We've been talking about Wine on Wheels grand tasting, I should say. grand tasting. I can't even read my own writing on September 10th. It's all to raise money and awareness for the Access Project. Yannick, I was thinking about all the things you do, and I feel like every time we check in with you, there's something more that's you're involved in. How do you think about kind of where you want to, really spend your time and money and efforts, and how do you continue to expand to get your message and mission out?
Well, I've had some time to reflect, and for sure, sometimes being everywhere is being nowhere, right? So I'm definitely, one of my objectives is to try to streamline responsibilities and objectives and all that. But certainly, restaurants and wine, and that's my heart, that's my love. Of course, above all that is my family and spending time with them as much as I can, and not taking that for granted. But of course, it's always been something that's been ingrained in me since I was a child. I was surrounded by some incredible people. I was taught by the Christian brothers, and always trying to give back to those that have less than you, and just not taking for granted the privilege that's been given to me, and really just trying to pay it forward. And that's my only goal in life, and I'm not taking anything for granted, and living within my means, but also living according to what nature gives me. And if I can do that, then I'm happy.
Well, it's a great message for us all, Jess.
How can people get involved and support your cause?
Well, the first thing is you can just go on wineonwheels.org. You can sign up to our newsletter. And if you are interested in coming to Wine on Wheels on Sunday, September 10th, it starts at 11 a.m. It shuts down at 3 p.m., but it's a great Sunday afternoon of wonderful wines. There'll be over 150 different wines from around the world, poured by 40 different restaurants. We'll have food there as well, provided by some great restaurants as well. So definitely a good Sunday afternoon to be spent. And I would like to offer all of your Bloomberg listeners a 20% discount if they put down YB Friends. So it's YB Friends, FRIENDS, as a discount code, and you get 20%. And again, that will go to support our goals and our mission, and in particular to help the Access Project to open up its doors.
Well, as we said, it's all to raise money and awareness for the Access Project, and I highly recommend people check out the website. Having said that, 11 a.m. it starts, so it's just a reminder that it's never too early or too late to maybe open up a bottle of wine. So we're going to do that. I'm going to hopefully not break the cork, because I've been known to do that, but you were kind enough to send over a bottle of Varinos, and I want you to talk a little bit about it as I open it up, and maybe Jess and I will sample. Ooh.
Yeah, for sure. So that's just one of the many wines that we'll be serving and pouring.
I didn't break the cork.
No, you didn't break it. Good. This is one of the wines that I visited and I got to taste. This is made from a grape called Vidiano, so completely indigenous to the island of Crete, southbound from the mainland of Greece. Really just an extraordinary place, absolutely beautiful. And this is made by a wonderful producer called Silvia Descalacchi. Just fresh, salty, mineral, everything that you want, especially in this kind of weather where it's hot, muggy. I just think it's complex. It's got a lot of layers to it. And again, that's just one of many wines, one of many very unique wines made from really, beautiful producers, family-owned producers, small producers that just focus on quality. And it's really a great opportunity to learn about wine. We'll also have some cocktails there, some great beers as well featured.
Well, it's interesting. I'm a red person. I think you know that because we've talked. This is really lovely. And it's light, and I could see it going with a lot of stuff. As you travel, and it's interesting too. I feel like more and more folks that either own and run restaurants or are running vineyards, like they're constantly looking for something a little bit different. And I think we all get caught in kind of the establishment. And I love that we're seeing more and more new vineyards, new innovation, if you will. And just tell me what you're seeing as you travel around and look for kind of new either vineyards or wine to kind of bring to the public.
For sure. I mean, I think the one thing that I'm seeing is just the sophistication and the amount of work that's done as far as farming goes. Really the respect to the land, sustainability, wanting to really create an environment as far as farming goes that'll last for generations to come. I mean, the one thing that you'll always hear from winemakers is that I want my kids to be able to play in those vineyards. Sometimes, their kids can't play in those vineyards because they're spraying fungicides, pesticides, you name it. But a lot of the vineyards now globally are kind of staying away from that and really just working alongside nature and doing things as organically and natural as possible. And that's the one thing that I'm really seeing. And also sustainability, also, which is really important. Respect to the staff, respect to their employees that are working there, providing them with respectable wages, housing, insurance, and all that. So that's really a lot. I mean, you've seen a lot of great changes when it comes to that.
What do you think is the main catalyst for change when it comes to inclusivity?
Well, I think, one thing that we've seen, during these last few years is where I'm seeing at least more than ever, more Black and brown people drinking wine that are involved in wine in restaurants, which is really, really key. And I think for too long, the majority of the business of wine and restaurants were male, white individuals that look like me. And now we're seeing way more people that are just the diversity. It's growing. There's still plenty of work that needs to be done. There's no doubt about that. We still have a long way to go, but definitely there's been a lot of improvements. And I think nothing makes me happier when I go to a vineyard and I see that there are so many more women winemakers out there. There are more people of Black and brown that are making wines. I mean, just recently, it's just extraordinary. Believe it or not, I just tasted a wine from Iran. And it's an extraordinary project. They were able to get the grapes from Iran,
Right.
have it shipped to Sweden, and they made the wine in Sweden because obviously you can't make alcohol in Iran. So those are
Yeah.
just kind of things like that. So it's just
Well,
again, the world of wine just encompasses history, geography,
Well,
all of the above.
you're creating incredible communities. The Access Project is as well. Wine on Wheels Grand Tasting on September 10th. Check it out, everybody. Yannick, be well. Thank you so much.